I'm going to ask the Vice Mayor who attended the last Planning District Commission to give out a little recognition, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amelia, would you come forward, please? Come on around here.
Around here.
You weren't at the last Planning District Commission meeting, but they were recognizing the members who were going off the board, and so they asked me to bring this and present it to you. It's a resolution of appreciation to Dr. Amelia Ross Hammond in recognition of her service to the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. Whereas Amelia Ross Hammond, council member, City of Virginia Beach, has served faithfully as a valued member of the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission from January 2013 through December 2016. And whereas she has contributed greatly to the success of the Commission's objectives through her dedication and experience, and has devoted personal time and energy toward developing a strong sense of regional cooperation among the member governments, and whereas she has demonstrated leadership in her successful efforts to address regional issues and has substantially contributed to the development of cooperative attitudes and has rendered invaluable service to the City of Virginia Beach and the citizens of Hampton Roads. Now therefore be it resolved by the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission that Amelia Ross Hammond be recognized and commended for her outstanding service, and presented this resolution as a token of the Commission's affection and esteem. And be it further resolved that the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission extends to Amelia Ross Hammond best wishes in her future endeavors, and orders that a copy of this resolution be spread upon the minutes of the Hampton Roads Planning District the 17th day of November 2016, signed by Ella Ward, the chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and I will treasure this.
Well, you earned it, and we thank you.
Amelia was an outstanding member of that commission. She participated in everything.
Yep, very good. Okay, Davo,
Yes, sir.
it's all yours, buddy.
I appreciate it, and
That's a new one.
good afternoon, council. Today, we're going to provide you a series of 3 briefings. These are no action to be taken at this time, but as you know, about 2 years ago, we embarked on an analysis of what sports marketing was doing for us here in Virginia Beach. And the stakeholders at the resort and across the whole city were aware that this was contributing significantly to our tourists, to heads and beds, to our economic vitality with regards to our tourism industry. And so today we're going to lead off with our Director of Convention and Visitors Bureau, Brad Van Domelen, who's going to give you a summarized executive version of what the Victus study talked to us about with regards to a field house. So, Brad, please.
Brad, we're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hanson, and I'm happy to be here today to present information on a subject that has garnered a lot of interest and a lot of attention, certainly most recently. As many of you know, as the city manager just indicated, we engaged a consultant about a year ago now, named Victus Advisors, to take a look at our sports marketing initiatives and give us some direction on where we can go to even get more benefit out of this very, very important market. The presentation I'm going to give really kind of just summarizes the full presentation, which would take a while to give, so I'm really kind of hitting the highlights for you this afternoon. First of all, the purpose of the study. It really is, we want to conduct a study that really looks at the sports marketing initiative that we have, We also want to evaluate the current facilities that we have in the Virginia Beach area, and then also look at any recommendations from the consultant about any facility opportunities that we have, and then also, based on any changes or any additions of any new facilities, what would be the economic impact of those facilities on our community. We've had a bit of a history as a sports marketing initiative going back probably about 14, 15 years now. This graph kind of shows the number of events that have taken place. Sports marketing, participatory sports events have taken place on an annual basis in Virginia Beach. And you can see there for about a decade, we moved along at about roughly 30 events a year. And then as we started to add capacity with more staff in our sports marketing area, supporting the efforts of Nancy Hellman, the director of that division, you can see there we had significant growth as we started to develop relationships, develop a skill set, and market ourselves as a very viable sports marketing destination. So the consultants looked at, what are some of our strengths as a market, as well as challenges that we are facing. First of all, the National Association of Sports Commissioners, NASC, really identified 4 key elements that are critical towards what's called a rights holder. A rights holder is somebody that has an event that they look to bring, tournaments that they run and operate. And so there's 4 key elements that a rights holder looks at when determining a viable location to bring their events. The first is having a strong brand, a strong sports brand. And that we definitely have. And I would venture to say, and this is not just my words, but other consultants, other people in the industry, recognize our sports marketing team among the best sports marketing teams in the country. I know Nancy's probably blushing over there in the corner, but it's a great team, and they do a fantastic job. So we have a great foundation with a successful team. And the other thing that's unique about our destination, and I just came back from VA1, which is the state's tourism conference, and they had a couple sessions on sports marketing. And one of the consultants there indicated, and I was talking to a lot of people in the room, and they said that their sports marketing teams in a lot of destinations don't get along well with their parks and recreation departments. They kind of really knock heads. Well, we're fortunate, with Michael Calvert sitting here and a sports marketing team and a Parks and Rec division of our local government that really work well together, that collaborate and understand each other. And what that does for us is it really helps provide a real strong level of service to our customers coming in here, because they see that combined support on our effort, and that's really important for our sports brand. So looking at the second element is having a sports culture. And so when you look at Virginia Beach, when you look at some key elements compared to the national averages, we have a younger median age. We have a higher percentage of households with children under 18 years of age, which is, of course, important for participatory sports. Higher household income, which is also important because you require discretionary income in order to have families with their kids participating in sports. And we have a large corporate base for sponsorship opportunities. The third element is proximity. When rights holders are looking for a venue to hold an event, they want to make sure that there's markets that we can draw from, or they can draw from, to bring participants to their tournaments and activities and so forth. So Virginia Beach sits in a great proximity within a 6-hour drive distance to 11 different market areas with populations over 500,000 people. Now, disclaimer, it's not the green dots, because we know Chicago is not a 6-hour drive distance away. But we do have 11 communities with a population over 500,000 people within that, easy drive distance to Virginia Beach. And the last one, and of course probably the most important one, is having the facilities. Now, one of the things that the consultant did through this process is he had a number of focus groups that he worked with, and one of them was a focus group of local users, people from our community that are using our local facilities, and wanted to get kind of a sense for how those facilities are performing and what kind of needs they're serving. And you see here 3 scores. There's good, average, and poor. Most of our facilities fall under the good category. We have a couple facilities that came in the average score. Average ones were Field Hockey Training Center. Great facility, but one of the challenges that was kind of talked about with the focus group on that facility was they desire more lighted fields. The Virginia Beach Tennis and Country Club, again, a fantastic facility. They do a great job there. But from a tournament play, they would like to see more hard courts for tournaments versus clay courts. And then one facility received a poor score, and that's the Hampton Road Soccer Complex. And the reason for that is the drainage issues on those fields, that a lot of times with even a minimal amount of rain, the fields become unusable because of the lack of appropriate drainage. So moving forward and looking at some of our challenges, the first one that really kind of the consultant conveyed is just the challenge with our convention center. Our convention center really is designed for meetings and conventions, but has really become used almost predominantly for participatory sports. As a matter of fact, in 2015, 73% of the room nights from the activities generated out of the convention center activities were from participatory sports, and that's very unusual. And the consultant went on to indicate that, you know, the situation is further complicated from the fact that we don't have a headquarter hotel, which makes it more marketable for the convention center use for the intended use of meetings and conventions. And so we're kind of backfilling that facility with participatory sports events, which is really not designed to host. And looking at venue operation, of the 9 venues, only 3 of the venues are really controlled and operated by the city, including the PAC, the convention center, and the oceanfront. Of course, the oceanfront really isn't a facility as much as a location, you know, that's used for some great events. And again, the consultant went on to just indicate that this kind of has contributed to the convention center's heavy use by participatory sports, because it is a facility that we do have control of. We have control over the booking calendar for that facility, and so we can, you know, book it with these type of activities. The other thing that was identified as very, very important for groups considering a destination for participatory sports and tournaments is that you want to have the facility located near your hotel stock. You know, we want to, you know, keep people in the market, and they want the convenience of being able to go back and forth between the hotel and wherever the tournament site is. So anything that was to be added to our community, they're recommending, of course, to be located near hotels. And they also pointed out that at the PAC, you know, there are no hotels right near the PAC area. And I talked about, you know, the focus groups that the consultant had, and some of the key takeaways of the local interviews was, first of all, the need for more basketball courts. Secondly, that, as I mentioned, a lot of outdoor events on the fields, the rectangular fields get canceled because of water and drainage issues. The convention center lacks certain sports amenities, which of course it was not built for that purpose, so it's not expected to have those type of amenities. And then also that the convention center is expensive for participatory sports. And looking at the event organizers, the people that are rights holders that are looking to come to communities like ours to hold events, their key takeaways were, one is, you know, a desire to have a facility with 8 to 10 basketball courts. And there's a demand for more turf fields for soccer, lacrosse type purposes, and of course the PAC, the rec department, has added 4 turf fields to the inventory at the PAC. And then also volleyball being very popular, there's a need for volleyball courts, and also just indicating, acknowledging that the current field house is very difficult to book that facility because it's so busy with local league play. So kind of the overriding recommendation by the consultant was that Virginia Beach needs a new city-controlled indoor sports center with convenient access to the cluster of hotel inventory. And the facility that they're making a recommendation on, addressing the basketball need, a facility with 10 basketball courts that'd be convertible on the hard floor to convert it to 12 volleyball courts. The indoor artificial turf field, and then to be flexible, you know, to be able to use the space for other sports, whether it be cheer, dance, wrestling, boxing, whatever. And then also the appropriate amenities for team rooms, concessions, restrooms, offices, and those sorts of facilities. With a new facility, the consultant believes that we should be able to generate at least 36 new events per year on an annual basis. That's incremental events that are currently not holding their tournaments and activities in Virginia Beach. They also looked at comparable venues, markets that we on a regular basis compete with. And I don't know if you can see all the information on this screen, but it lists the facilities. There are 6 facilities listed on the far left there, the location. If you can see it, one thing I want to point out is the year that they opened. If you look, most of them have been 2014, 2015, one coming in 2017. So you see a lot of communities that have recognized the growth of the participatory sports industry and really have added facilities to be able to benefit from the increased demand that this industry has had in recent years, and for their communities to benefit from the economic activities that go along with it. Just point out there, if you're looking at and can see it, the construction cost, the one facility at the top there, $76 million, and that kind of is on the far end of the scale of cost, but that included a lot of development of outside space on a 120-acre site, so a much larger scale complex than what we're talking about. They also looked at how this facility would be used. Predominantly basketball, followed by volleyball, and then other sports. Basketball alone taking up over half of the time in the facility. And then the breakdown of tournament use versus local league use, and it's showing here that tournaments would represent between 25 to 30%, so nearly a third of the time, and the rest of it being filled in with local league play. This is an important slide here because this really shows a real important opportunity for us. The orange bars show the use of basically I'll call it the courts, the hard surface. The blue bars are the indoor field. But if you look at the curve there, and the center part of the curve, the lowest bars are our summertime, the June, July, and August. Well, that's the slowest time for the participatory sports activities, the tournament activities. But of course, we all know that's our peak time for leisure tourism activities. So there's an inverse relationship between the seasonality of participatory sports and the seasonality of our tourism market here in Virginia Beach. So what this really demonstrates is that this type of activity of participatory sports really demonstrates in the ability for us to enhance the time of the year where we need the business in the shoulder seasons and the off seasons, basically the non-summer time when we're peak for our leisure summer tourism business. This gets into the cost and kind of looking at comparable facilities, showing the cost of $140 as an average per square foot of the facility. The recommendation for what was recommended, about 175,000 square foot building, so at $140 per square foot, that's $24.5 million. Now that's just for the building itself. That's not site work. That's not in the event that any land had to be acquired, parking, and that sort of thing. So we're looking at, based on the recommendation, $24.5 million for the building. Then he provided a pro forma, a sample pro forma, kind of showing that basically a facility with the type of operation that he is talking about and the mix of business, the amount of tournament versus local play, is basically a break-even proposition for the operation of the building itself. And then getting into the more important aspect and the economic impact of it. So on an annual basis, net direct spending, this is business coming from outside of the market, coming to Virginia Beach, incremental business that's not here right now, generating $6.2 million a year in just direct spending. And when you add the multipliers, the induced and indirect, it goes to nearly $10 million. And then at the bottom of the slide there, the 36 new events be generating over 21,000 additional room nights on an annual basis. And then looking at the recommendations, recommending that a new facility be owned and operated by the city. That's because we're looking for a facility that we control the booking policy and the booking calendar of that facility. That the facility could be operated by the sports marketing team in partnership with Parks and Rec from a local league play and programming on a local basis, and also recommending that a facility like this would require a full-time general manager. Well, taking the recommendations from the consultant and looking at it internally, these are some of the high-level things that we gleaned from it. First of all, we know that there are new business opportunities out there that we're not able to accommodate right now, that a new facility like this would enable us to bring more business into our community. control of the facility is paramount. We don't want to end up with another facility that we have the inability to control the booking calendar and be in the same place that we are right now with a market that wants to come here but no place to put them. And then location in proximity to the convention center is important. Having synergy between those two buildings is important because there are going to be events that are going to require overflow into another facility, and having that synergy between the buildings is really important. Hard courts, the basketball courts, the volleyball courts is the most important asset. It's the asset that really is going to drive the majority of the tournament activity and also thereby the majority of the return on the investment of a facility like this. The indoor turf field that was recommended, the one turf field, indoor turf field, is something we kind of more look at as kind of an optional amenity. I think it's an expensive amenity. I have a hard time looking at that particular amenity, saying that it would drive an ROI for us, because one field is not going to create the ability for a tournament. It really would be something that would be kind of more of a local amenity that really is not going to drive the ROI, and it adds a tremendous amount of space to the building. It adds 90,000 square feet to the facility. So why now? We're at capacity. You know, we are losing business today without the facilities that would enable us to attract more business. It says recession-proof. I hate to say anything is recession-proof. I say it's recession-tolerant. In the last great recession we had, the sports marketing industry, the participatory sports, is the only travel segment that didn't see a decline.
People do things for their kids.
The convention center functionality, we want to return our convention center for what it was designed for, and that is for meetings and conventions. Is what the building is designed to house. It's the most efficient type of business in that building to generate the most revenue. And then also, as you'll hear shortly, there's an opportunity that's presented itself to us for the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, as far as, you probably all have seen it in the paper, as far as an opportunity for a relocation of that and looking at possible synergies with a facility like this that's complementary. And that ends my presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, continuing with this theme, with my first 10 months interacting with the Hotel Association and the stakeholders at the beach, and looking at how do we build on the shoulder season, how do we grow our winter season, how do we create a sense of excitement at the beach, I'm introduced to the president and CEO of IMG through Doug before Doug departed, and hence as Ken McDonald comes up to the podium, there was an opportunity for me to be exposed to the additional opportunities that facilities that provide for music, concerts, and entertainment of a smaller venue would present itself as a great opportunity for Virginia Beach to look at in concert with our sports tourism business. So I was exposed to Ken. I spent some time with him and Doug before Doug's departure, and I just think that you will be interested to learn who Ken is, what Ken does, and what Ken's experience has been, and how he has a vision that I think is pretty cool for us to consider as we think about the resort.
Well, we're glad you've been exposed to Ken.
Yeah, the mayor's been exposed to me before.
Ken, it's good to see you again. Well,
It's nice to see all of you. For those who I've had the privilege to work with in the past in various ways, my name is Ken McDonald. I live in the Cape Story neighborhood of Virginia Beach. I own IMG, which is a company you're all familiar with because it is beach events. It's Beach Street USA. It's American Music Festival. It's Monsters on the Beach. It's Latin Festival. It's Funk Fest. You all are very familiar with Bobby Malati, who runs that program for us. Always leaves with an impression. And what working with Bobby has allowed me to do going back is I've also become very involved in the music festival space. So I'm one of the executive producers of Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival outside Nashville, Outside Lands, which is in Golden Gate State Park, San Francisco. We're opening a new festival in Phoenix this year. There's one in Birmingham called Sloss. There's one in Forecastle, which is in Louisville. So I spent a lot of time out of the market working on festivals. In addition, we run the Portsmouth Pavilion and have for the last 11 years. We also promote shows at various venues throughout the state. In the past, I was a tour promoter for a comedian named Ron White. We played everywhere in the country from Anchorage to Bakersfield to Portland, Maine. So I had the opportunity to visit a lot of these venues throughout the country. In my role of being a concert promoter in Virginia Beach, starting at the Boathouse in Norfolk, running Virginia Beach Amphitheater, running the Classic Amphitheater in Richmond, building the amphitheater in Charlotte that's now called the Sprint Pavilion, I've spent my career working in the entertainment field, mostly live music, looking at venues, and then watching Virginia Beach, watching Hampton Roads, and trying to figure out what we could have in our market to be better. The Dome site, I've seen, know the history, seen it, its evolution, and when the last opportunity came along to revisit it was the opportunity to speak with the city manager. And one of the things that we hear, and the reason why Beach Events was created 21 years ago, was there wasn't enough entertainment options. We had a lot of great things going for us, but we needed some more entertainment options. That's where we stepped in and started building a large event program to give families more things to do at the beach. The good news for us in the future is every study we see about millennials, one of the things they look at is music events. What they look at is community events, and we're uniquely positioned to bring more of those events to Virginia Beach. And that's where we get into the event center idea. So the Virginia Beach Event Center is a concept for the Dome site. That the piece we've heard about the Dome site is there's a lot of development ideas. You've heard a lot of different ideas for theaters and things like this. I've gone broader with the concept to be more flexible with an event center. We have a fine array of theaters in Hampton Roads, so we need to find an area that makes sense for us to fill in. And each of these buildings, from the public assembly facilities, from the arena we're looking at in Virginia Beach to Hampton to Scope, on down to the small buildings like the attics, they all serve a niche. And so we're looking at a niche that isn't being served. So working name, Virginia Beach Event Center, location, the Dome site. We could look at other options for it, but it seems like the Dome site works for a lot of great reasons. Capacity of the venue would be 2,600 fully seated. With all the seats down, we'll get into the configuration where we take seats up and we can increase the capacity up to 3,600 seats. It would also have a configuration for things like boxing and MMA. Banquets is something we can talk about, whether there's a need for that or not. When you get into banquets, you get into a lot of kitchen services and things that we may or may not decide are right for the facility. The multi-purpose uses you can see. It's also a complementary building to the array of buildings that we're talking about today and that currently exist. Similar venues, I'll give you a high-end version, which is the Joint, which is at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Vegas. And I'll give you a more modest version, which is at the Sands Bethlehem Event Center in Bethlehem, PA. That's kind of the range of top line to entry level for these type buildings as far as the fit and finish. It's about a 50,000 square foot footprint, which is a little bit bigger than the Chrysler Hall footprint. It's approximately 65 feet high. The budget in cost, more towards the entry level, is in the $15 to $20 million range. It's got a large main floor of about 12,000 square feet. We're talking about designing it with a standalone lobby / club entertainment space so it can do its own private functions, public functions, and be a standalone venue in itself. Parking is an interesting thing for the future. It's always interesting at the oceanfront. Looking at a maximum need for parking, I've put 1,300 down. I think everything that we've looked at and everything we do in festival world and our planning world, the amount of people per car ratio continues to drop because ride sharing using different sources continues to go up. So I think 1,300 spaces is a very max number. Programming and design, if you've studied Sandler Center, you've studied Virginia Beach Amphitheater, you've looked at theaters, arenas, there's certain components that these buildings need. that are quite obvious. I don't think it's necessary to go through the details of them, but it's all the components that you would have in a proper theater or amphitheater, and a lot of things that might be similar to arena design, just different scale. So the joint at the Hard Rock Hotel, you can see it in its configuration now with all the seats on the floor. In their configuration, all those seats are removable. They do have a balcony towards the back with permanent seating. The floor is tiered. I think it's 4 different levels, which gives you the grade you need to have good sight lines for the stage. The stage is permanent. You don't have to build it and take it down all the time like you would in an arena. Video system's permanent. Sound and lighting's permanent. There's a lot of efficiencies to moving shows in and moving shows out quickly and affordably that makes it attractive to use on a frequent basis. Here's the other end of the version. It's more of a concrete finish, black wall, a little more stark, not quite as refined, but still quite functional. The floor is completely flat. This is a standing configuration bouncing back to the building in Las Vegas where you see all the seats are up and it's in a standing configuration. That's it without the people in it, so you get a clear sight. You can see where the tiers are is where the handrails are located at each level. It also has levels on the top, which are typically VIP seating along the sides. VIP programming is very important. It's one way to keep the revenue down for everyone else by having some higher price tickets, and those help carry the load of an overall cost of doing a show. This is a look from the back of the building in Pennsylvania. And one thing to keep in mind about this building and what resonated with me is every large casino, every large resort, every large cruise ship has a gathering place. They have one major entertainment center where everyone goes to see the show. It can be programmed for whatever weekend we need it for. But what Virginia Beach seems to lack currently is that large gathering space for entertainment. That you can kind of see the basic handrails, basic finishes. This is a boxing MMA configuration. MMA is a significant part of the live entertainment business these days. As you may have noted when you saw the sale of the Major League MMA that Dana White owns to WME Endeavor for I forget how many billions of dollars, but it's a very substantial business. This is a banquet configuration, award configuration. The NHL had their awards this year at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas using this style configuration. This gives you a better view of what's happening up on those sides. The building's typically built with suites, much like you've looked at for arenas and other things. So there's 6, 12 private suites, whatever you need to build. There's also talk that we've had about maybe we have fewer suites and more club seats and have a club level, which would be a higher price ticket, a little less defined space, and a little more communal space. Another look through a suite down towards the stage. This is generally what I'm talking about when I talk about a large lobby space. It's freestanding, it has access to restrooms, it has access to food and beverage, and it can be fully self-contained because that's another revenue opportunity to use it pre-event, post-event, and for other events. Impact to Virginia Beach. These are some of your common economic impacts that you see of public assembly facilities. There's a lot of direct revenue associated with our different tax structures. Virginia Beach does have a significant admission tax. There's other markets that have less significant. There's a few that have a more significant admission tax, but it is part of the formula here that makes things go. It also will be what we need for restaurant visit, hotel stays, retail purchases. I think it does create jobs. It does improve the quality of life for Virginia Beach residents. As you travel, there's a whole lot of people that used to travel to other markets to see certain shows. I think it's a great way to help retain our best and brightest that might go to other markets to see these types of opportunities in where they live. The year-round entertainment option, we do have in the popular music culture, amphitheaters do rule the day in the summer, but the rest of the season is a theater market, and we would have to create summer programming as an extension of beach events and working with others to create summer programming. Although there is quite a bit of summer programming that goes on in theaters, the real season is in what we consider the off-season. That's when most of the theater level shows tour. So why is this building needed? What niche does it serve? I've listed the capacities of the various buildings, and you can see VBEC as fitting a niche that's 2,600 to 3,600. So it fits between Chrysler Hall and the Portsmouth Pavilion. And we can drill down, if anyone ever had an interest, and I'd be happy to talk about this stuff all day, but we can drill down to different configurations and different buildings to show where this will fit in and what sort of niche it does serve. So going back, it's kind of an interesting reflection on the Dome site. For those of us that remember the Dome site, I'm not one of them because it was inactive when I got here in 1988. But when you look back at the history of the Dome site, it's pretty impressive. And when you add to the history of live entertainment at the oceanfront, and I probably won't be able to speak as well about it as some other people in this room, but you think about the Cavalier and you think about the Peppermint Beach Club. Virginia Beach was a touring destination for nationally known acts. It was a great destination to see live music, and a lot of that live music, other than what's happening at Virginia Beach Amphitheater, has moved away. It's still out there. There's still acts looking for these mid-sized venues, and I think with what I'm proposing, it's right for this market. And as I said, I can talk about this stuff all day and be happy to answer any questions people have. You can contact me directly anytime.
Thank you so much.
Upgraded seating was $3.50, by the way, for the Grateful Dead, showing and making 2 shows that day. And so as Joel and Ken do dancing seats, enter a conversation about our state sports Hall of Fame. And so those of us that have played basketball most of our life know who Eddie Webb is. And I'd like to introduce Eddie Webb, who is, of course, the director and executive director of the Sports Hall of Fame. And today presenting their concept and their current situation is a friend of the city, Joel Rubin.
Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you. I wear a lot of hats. Today I'm wearing the hat. I'm the chairman of the board of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame and have been for just the last couple of years. I've been a fan of the Hall of Fame since it opened, but now to talk to you about where we are today. The Hall of Fame is in Portsmouth. How many of you have been over there, by the way? Okay. It's a wonderful facility. That opened in 2005, but the Hall of Fame itself opened in 1966 by some sports-minded business people, mostly over in Portsmouth, to recognize the state's leading athletes, coaches, and contributors to the game, as well as media people, believe it or not. The General Assembly designated the Hall of Fame as Virginia's official sports Hall of Fame in 1966. So this is Virginia's official sports Hall of Fame. Now, what happened in the early part of this century is that the city of Portsmouth and the state decided together to come to the Hall of Fame and say we would like to have this expanded into a much more robust facility, to be part of a downtown museum district that also included the Children's Museum, which you know is over there, as well as courthouse galleries and some military museums that are all down there on High Street. So with that commitment by the city of Portsmouth and some dollars that came from the state and obviously from philanthropists, it opened in 2005 thanks to the support of the city, state, and private individuals. But the key is there was a pledge from Portsmouth that there was going to be $500,000 a year in the budget for ongoing operational support. And without that pledge from the city, they never would have gotten the financing. The building would never have been built. Over time, what's occurred, and Mr. Chandler there can tell you a little bit about that because he was in Portsmouth at the time, the municipal backing has gone down. The pledge of 500 went down to 385 and down to this, down to that, and today it's at $100,000, which is a huge reduction because we really needed the 500,000 to continue to operate the building and be open 7 days a week. We're now down to be open 3 days a week. We're only open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays because we just have had to cut back on staff. We have very little money for marketing. As you know, Portsmouth became the recipient of tolls, which has not helped anybody over in Portsmouth, and that further depressed visitation. So I went on the board about 4 or 5 years ago, and it seemed like every board meeting we were having was talking about what's happening with the city, what's happening with the state. And that's no way to run a railroad or even a museum. And so we decided this year, facing this cutback from the city and a pledge actually from the leadership that after 2016 there would be no money in the budget, and the state saying that they wanted the Hall of Fame off its books, that we decided that we needed to downsize and focus on our core mission of honoring sports legends. So we came to that moment when you have to say it just isn't working, us being in the real estate business, and we wanted to get back to getting to what we do well, which is honor the sports legends here in Virginia. The challenge is that the existing building has a $3 million mortgage held now by Town Bank. Originally it was Bank of America, but then Town took it over a few years ago. Portsmouth could consider buying it and may well, we don't know. But if they wanted to continue running as a museum, they'd have to take over operational responsibility, just like they do with the Children's Museum, which they own. So they would have to take on basically the state share and the city share, which I would consider to be unlikely. Now, if the city chose not to purchase it, we would sell the facility. We have a $1.5 million endowment fund right now that's tied to the note. If the building does get sold, our endowment fund comes with us. So that's really important for us. The sale price, we don't know what it would be. Obviously, anybody that's involved in real estate knows the value is what someone's willing to pay for it. We don't think it'd be more than $3 million, but we don't know. I mean, it could be more than 3. A lot depends, obviously, on the market. But in our view, Portsmouth has invested a lot in the Hall of Fame. They certainly recognize the challenges that we've had and they've had with the building. I would love it for it to go on the tax roll so they can start to recoup some of their investment. The state is really pushing a lot of what's going on right now. The General Assembly does, even though there's been sort of a debate as to whose responsibility is the Hall of Fame, the state does see it as some of its responsibility. And so it has told us and has put $750,000 in the biennial budget, 16, 17, 17, 18, basically to allow us to transition to a more sustainable situation. And that's what our board has decided. We need to be more sustainable, which is why we need to, get out of our building and become have much more a smaller footprint. So they have told us we need to provide them a sustainability plan by the end of this year. And so that's why we're talking to you today. That's why there's a lot of urgency to this situation because they want to know what we're going to do before they will release those funds. And those funds obviously are very important to us. The leadership does believe that it's not sustainable in Portsmouth, which is pretty obvious. Portsmouth obviously is not the tourism destination of Virginia Beach, but Portsmouth is a great city and has done wonderful things for the Hall of Fame. So I'm not here to badmouth Portsmouth. They've been great. So for Virginia Beach, what we have in the Hall of Fame, and those of you who've been over there know, we have $2 million in exhibits. that catalog and chronicle the history of sports in Virginia and some of the greatest players and coaches who have performed here. They are exhibits that are both static and interactive. So there's one that kids love to do, ones that are just there for reading. We have a very strong brand. Even though our visitation on High Street in Portsmouth is not what anybody envisioned, the brand of the Hall of Fame is strong throughout the state. Athletes, coaches, they want to be in the Hall of Fame. And if you ever watch the speeches they give each April when we do our induction, you'll see how important it is for them to be recognized by their state. And obviously the major schools, we don't have major, professional sports, but among the colleges and universities from Virginia Tech to UVA and Richmond and JMU, I'm going to miss somebody in this room here. What you got, Dukes? Go Dukes. University of Richmond, whatever, down to even the smaller schools, they all know that the Hall of Fame is important to them. Our banquets do very well. We have them now at the Renaissance Hotel in Portsmouth. This past year, some of our inductees were James Ferrier, who starred at UVA and for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Charles Oakley, who started at Virginia Union, and then for the Detroit Pistons, Rob Ukrop, who's one of the great soccer players of all time, Marianne Stanley, who was the basketball coach at ODU, women's basketball coach, were among our inductees, and Dave Rosenfield, by the way, and Charlie Stukes, who you may not have heard of, but won a Super Bowl for the Colts back in the Super Bowl V, and then stayed in town. He's from Chesapeake, and was active in the school system and at his church. So when we had the banquet this past April, we had 12 tables of people from Chesapeake who came over to Portsmouth to honor Charlie Stukes. So, and Dave Rosenfield, you can imagine, has been in sports here for over 50 years. He had a big turnout as well. But it occurs with people who are from other parts of the state, which is what's so good about this opportunity for Virginia Beach. Because when we induct a great high school coach or a player from Virginia Tech or some place outside of Hampton Roads, a lot of those folks come to Virginia Beach, stay in the hotels, eat at the restaurants, or wherever our banquets are held going forward. And future induction weekends will draw many to Virginia Beach. Frank Beamer will become eligible in 2018, certainly the most popular college coach in history, and I hate to say it since I went to UVA, but that is the truth. And then Mike Kadire, who just retired, and Heath Miller, who went to UVA and plays for the Steelers. And then you just keep going on down the line. I mean, David Wright's back is bad. I assume we'll be inducting him here next few years as well. So Virginia, even though we don't have Major League Sports, we pump out a lot of great athletes and coaches. So you can count on always having some big names and others. There's Alonzo Mourning, for instance, who is from Indian River High School in Georgetown, played for the Miami Heat, is now in the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. We have inductees in multiple sports, and that's one of the real values, because with us comes our inductees. And they love the Hall of Fame and, come to our banquets, can come to tournaments that are held at the field house or at other places around Virginia Beach to do clinics, programs, signing autographs, that sort of thing, to add another bunch of pizzazz to your events that you have here in Virginia Beach. And we can also help with economic development through inductee testimonials and personal appearances, including at events held nationwide, because a lot of our inductees don't live in Virginia, but they're out there and they can speak highly about our city and region. And, for us, looking what makes Virginia Beach so attractive, just like we had talked about with one of the other proposals we hear about, we have much better opportunity for corporate support here in Virginia Beach than we do anywhere else. And we would certainly add Virginia Beach people to our board. And I think it's great because there's a lot of people in Virginia Beach that really love sports, whether they're graduates of Virginia Tech or University of Richmond or something like that. And their touchstone for many of the sports is what happened on their college campuses. So there's a lot of interest in these athletes and coaches. One of the things that we're very proud of that we have through the Hall of Fame is our education program. It's called the Math Academy because if you love sports, you love math, and vice versa. Whether it's statistics and batting averages or that sort of thing. There's just a whole lot of math formulas that are in sports. And particularly for boys, getting them interested in STEM and math and everything, sports is actually a good way into it. So we have our Math Academy right now. Because of NAP credits, we've been able to provide programs free for a lot of kids at the lower income, for at-risk students. And in fact, right now, our program, we reach out over the years to many schools throughout the region and the state, and 30 Virginia Beach schools are already utilizing our Math Academy, either coming over to Portsmouth or we can go out to them. The interactive exhibits that we would have at the Hall of Fame can deliver math instruction as well. So if these kids are coming in to Virginia Beach for a volleyball tournament or something, they also can interact and get a math lesson while they're at it. Or, parents, when the kids are in town just on vacation, come over and get the same sort of thing. And we met with Dr. Spence, and he was very encouraging about bringing the Hall of Fame here because of the math programs that we do. The Hall of Fame will add a new attraction for CVB to promote, and we've had Nancy has been over and Brad have been over to our building and have heard about what we do and what we can bring to Virginia Beach. The key, obviously, is bringing sports enthusiasts from outside the region to Virginia Beach. We are the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, not the Hampton Roads Sports Hall of Fame. So a lot of the people that get in, like Rob Ucrop and others, are from other parts of the state and to come down here to Virginia Beach. We'll add marketing value to the project, and thanks to CVB's and the Hall's creative partnership, and that's really the real key for us and why when we began to, at the Hall of Fame, go, we have got to move on from our Portsmouth situation. Where should we be? And the best fit is this city, because of your sports marketing department. We feel this really is a perfect fit, or perfect match, as I used to call Virginia Beach, here in Virginia Beach, because of the outstanding departments you have, the commitment to sports marketing. This is one more good thing that adds to that mix for Virginia Beach, and you become Virginia's Hall of Fame city. As I said, by the end of 2016, and to satisfy the General Assembly, we have to have a commitment from Virginia Beach. We can talk about at some point what that commitment looks like, but the leadership of the General Assembly really is excited about the Hall of Fame coming here. In fact, I talked to Barry Knight about it, and he told me I could mention that to you. He's on the House Appropriations Committee, as is Chris Stolle. Chris Jones is the chairman. Frank Wagner's been very involved with us on this, who's obviously from Virginia Beach as well. So there's a lot of buzz out there about this opportunity for Virginia Beach from Virginia Beach legislators that really want to be involved in this. What we really would love to have, leaving Portsmouth, we don't need a lot. We don't have a lot of employees, but we do need to get established in a new city, start building relationships here in Virginia Beach with the corporate side, with the city, with your sports marketing people, so that we're as integrated as CVB is with Parks and Rec. I'll join that whole team. And to make the organization fully sustainable. And so that's what we have. We've been asked, well, how much space do you need? Well, when we met with the city manager and some others here a couple weeks ago, he had an engineer there who said, y'all figure out what you want to do, and we'll figure out what we have. We don't need a ton of space, and we can adapt to whatever you have. But we really would love to be in Virginia Beach and appreciate this opportunity to talk to you today. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Joel. Dave?
Yes, sir. As a wrap up, I'm backed up here by my facilities engineer, Tom Nicholas, and I thought I would, and my perspectives were not given to you for your Friday packet, so I'd like to kind of walk through that. Certainly, we need to further discuss the VICTA study with the resort stakeholders and the sports tourism stakeholders across the whole city. A lot of these comments are from my dialogue with our district councilman at the beach, John Earn, and Councilman, if you got anything you want to add as I go through these, jump all over it. Certainly, when I first was exposed to a field house and an event center, why couldn't they be in the same building? Why couldn't you maximize concerts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and therefore not have to depend on league play, which doesn't really return you a whole lot, and it certainly doesn't put heads in beds because everybody's going to go get sweaty and then go back to Great Neck and eat dinner, take a shower. Why couldn't you have it such that you had concerts during the week, and when tournaments were scheduled, then tournaments brought tourists and families into town to play their events on Thursday nights, maybe Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. And there's a reason why they haven't, that type of structure doesn't exist, because of the criticality of providing excellent services for each of the respective facilities. And if you don't provide an excellent sound quality and an event for a concert with lights and a good service so you can get a beer or whatever it takes to be at that event, as opposed to having a good floor surface for a basketball tournament or a wrestling tournament. We scoured, we looked across the nation to see if there are those kind of event centers out there. We really can't find any that have the quality of both. However, there are a significant number of architectural engineering firms that are significantly interested in looking at the potential. So determining whether it's a single facility or whether it's joint facilities, or we combine the Sports Hall of Fame with the field house and make something opportunistic out of that, we need time to work on that. And so if we pop to the next chart, the original target size of 175,000 square feet from the Victus study is somewhat changed in our recommendation. We want to take out the rectangular field. We don't think that's going to produce a return on investment for the structure that we have to build and the costs associated with constructing that. And so when you take a look at what potentially the dimensions of these three different facilities might be, or the combined facility, or maybe they just come off of in a campus type of format that's supported by a single HVAC support system, it's hard to tell. We think that they have to, we have to deal with unique challenges as there. And I'm sure the council would ask me, what's the order of magnitude we're talking here? So we've given you a number so that you understand what that number might be. If you include costs associated with concept, engineering, and construction, outfitting, and then standing up the operation. So what do we need from the City Council? We would need your approval to proceed, and we would need some concept money when it's appropriate. So what would be the phase-in and the anticipated schedule that we might want to follow here? We've got considerable conversations that need to continue to take place over the next two plus months so that we have an opportunity to understand how this financing might be generated and where these facilities might be located. So we would not be back in front of the council till sometime in late January at the earliest, depending on how those conversations might go. And then we would follow up with a series of events as shown up on here to get us to a point where we could potentially move forward with the project. So the potential milestones are that we would want to come back and say, hey, look, we need to move forward with a concept on this, show you where we think we might want to site these things and get some seed money to proceed. We would take about a year to move forward with completing design, and completing that would be somewhere close to 2 years from where we are now. and then we would be able to, or actually 3 years from now, and we'd be able to move into construction with our FY20 budget. So with that, I'll let the council.
Thank you very much. Bobby D.
Thank you. I think all three presentations were excellent and necessary. But the thing is, we move forward, I guess, in an uncertain economic time. How does this fit into the context of an overall strategic plan and vision that we have? You know, in terms of what we're trying to do and accomplish. And let's not also forget, we're talking about a pier. Let's not also forget that a lot of these projects are going to require, parking. We have a disposition of building one on our plate and everything. So I just caution as we go forward that, we really have to put this into a context that, we have a number of overarching things and how we're going to pay for it. And, and I'm just going to be honest, one of the things that attracted me to the arena type proposal that we get, and I know there was a mention that the city should operate it so we have control and everything, but the point is, can we consider, outside agencies coming in, to help fund these things? Because once again, I'm worried about debt service, I'm worried about our ability to pay, the intangibles about how this is going to impact, public safety and other city sources. So I think we really have to do an in-depth study, not only in context of what the projects are themselves, but how they fit in with everything else.
Thank you. Johnny Yu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Rosemary.
Well, first off, just by way of background, I asked for this study about a year and a half ago with the recognition that we have really done a great job in terms of amateur sports for our city, and which is a great benefit to tourism, but also a great benefit to all of the young men and women that are involved in participatory sports now. And we've known that, but we haven't known really if we had the opportunity to increase that, how to do that, what's the best way to do that, and where, if we were going to invest in money and invest in facilities, what are we going to get the best bang for our buck? And so, I certainly appreciate the CVB was under Jim Ricketts originally, and Brad carried it, and of course Nancy Hellman was there all along the way. So I'm certainly appreciative of their efforts to kind of really get somebody from outside who recognizes the opportunities throughout the national marketplace, what those opportunities are. And so within the concept of doing that, we also felt that it was important to, talk about a theater concept at the Dome site. That's been something that's been talked about since 2000 when we did the original marketing study that talked about theaters. That was brought out by the Sandler Center, and certainly talked about locating something of a similar size there. And I see Andrea and her team here today. We're certainly optimistic and hopeful at the resort that we're going to be able to get this thing buttoned up here in the very short term. And I think it's important, and I think Ken talked about it, at least in generalities, but we've always talked about, venue production, whether it's the amphitheater or the Sandler Center or the Ziders Theater or whatever, the recognition that the size of those theaters really dictates what goes there. And so, even though you could say, okay, we've got multiple facilities, but, I think that we've been very methodical to where we have encouraged those development to make sure that we're doing that in a way that is not competitive between those venues. And certainly, I wouldn't see anything that we could potentially do at the Dome site as being competitive with anything that we have currently or with a potential arena in that corridor. And then, of course, we were very excited about the possibility of hosting the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. And, if we are going to take a look at a potential field house where we are going to be bringing in sports fans from literally all over the country, what a great opportunity to potentially have them exposed to all the wonderful athletes that the state of Virginia has over the past years. And I know this is going to be a continuing discussion, but I certainly felt that the council needed to have exposure to these, at least give us a benchmark that we can talk about probably in length at our retreat.
Thank you. I've got Shannon and then Rosemary.
I have a question first, Joel. You may know how does there you are. How does the Children's Museum do in Portsmouth? I mean, I know it's not apples to apples, but I hear they're pretty robust and they're pretty financially sound. Is that true?
You guys talked about that, or at least Eddie.
The numbers that they give for all Oh, sir.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Eddie, we're glad to have you.
Thank you. The most recent numbers that they have given me over there is on all the city museums combined, which that figure for last year was 188,000. Okay, I would say that half of that, a good half of that is the Children's Museum, but that's the only way they could give me the numbers was combined.
I got you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with that is that, I don't know if it's, the red flags going off in my head is if this sports museum can't make it in Portsmouth, and I know we have tunnels, and I know we have tolls, and I know we have that barrier there, what's making us so confident that it's gonna go over so well in Virginia Beach? If the Children's Museum is thriving and doing well in Portsmouth, I would think that tweaking something or the other might help I don't know, I don't wanna talk ourselves out of getting a venue, however, my red flags are going off that if there's a problem there, is there not gonna be a problem here? And then did you,
I can,
really asking a
yeah, I
question,
can
but
address
you-
some of that if you'd like. Over there, there's an admission to get into the facility, okay? Our board has made a decision to get out of the real estate business museum. What we have talked to officials here about is that we want to enhance a Virginia Beach facility. We're not looking to come over to the Hall of Fame, charge admission to our stuff, okay? Now, it's your building. If that is part of the plan that Virginia Beach has, that's different. But we are looking to enhance a facility that you have, okay?
And you've got millions of visitors over here. Portsmouth doesn't have that. They don't have a CDB or a real marketing department. So it's just been a challenge to get. You just don't have everybody walking down the street like you have around here.
And I guess
Virginia
the
Beach.
Children's Museum uses the schools and the SOLs and all of that to kind of enhance their visitorship.
Shane, you got anything else?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
I guess another red flag for me is saying city-owned in this process, and that we really don't have a great track record in managing our sports facilities here in the area. Golf, sportsplex, tennis, field hockey, we've outsourced all that to private vendors in doing the work. So, again, what's to make us think it's gonna be different this time? That's just my word of caution. Why not put this out to the private sector to bid on and to come up with a concept for us or help us in that endeavor? Because to me, that's another huge red flag that it's city-owned when we've got other things we need to worry about.
Good comments. Rosemary? Oh, Rosemary?
I like Bobby, appreciate all three of these at once, and it's an interesting concept to have a multi-purpose building. And I really understand the need for the field house, because, I mean, sports marketing is something that we truly do a good job at, and it really, people will spend money on their kids to bring them places when everything else is tough. They'll spend money on their pets and their kids. I guess I still don't understand how it would fit with the arena if we go forward with the arena, because it's still two competing venues pretty close to each other. And one of the things about the arena, we were told that it was not going to all be 18,000 people at once. It could be smaller ones. I think the thing that's really concerning me is the dome site. I'd really like to know where else it could go. I just don't see the dome site as the best use, this being the best use of that property, the highest and best. I mean, I know we've had some things and it hasn't gone well, but I'm the eternal optimist that something's going to come along that's going to be really, really great for the dome site, that's going to attract our visitors and our locals too. And I think you could put a field house in a lot of places. I don't think you want to use that oceanfront property for a field house. So I have a problem with it being on the dome site, which I think I mentioned to Dave when he brought this up a couple of weeks ago. I think we need a field house. I think the field house would be really great. I'd like to know where else we could put it besides there. I think the Hall of Fame is interesting. It seems like a pretty big financial commitment. And maybe we can talk about that. Maybe we can do something for less. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts.
Thank you, Rosemary.
This is a
John?
first blush
Yeah,
thing.
oh, yeah, John Moss.
I would just like to get a copy of the full deliverable. I mean, I just don't feel like I have enough full understanding. I'd really like to see all the underlying analysis. And I realize financing's coming later, but I would like to see the full deliverable so I can do my homework. I do agree with what Shannon, some of her comments, and I also wrote about the site, the opportunity cost, making sure we really understand that. But my most important concern is the one that Mr. Dyer brought up with is making sure we don't do a one-of-one prioritization and a one-of-one allocation of, the limited debt that we have, the limited dollars that we have, and that we really can communicate to the public, given the whole list of stuff that's unfunded, how does this jump to the top of our time demand for decision-making and jump to the top of our list for funding? And I know we're not doing that today, but we need to have that. And that's why I think this schedule here, I am not comfortable doing this outside of understanding all the commitments in the operating budget or the capital budget that we have, whether it be drainage or school modernization. And I realize the business case and how it's financed might influence that, Mr. Hanson. I do understand all that. But if we really want the public to give us meaningful impact, I know they're not studying this over the Christmas holidays, I'm pretty positive. So, and I hope they're not, but I think there's got to be more time between having the business case decision and understanding it and then voting to commit. There's got to be more than a week. And just talking to the stakeholders that are using it, I think we can learn a lot from some other decisions that haven't come out the right way, that we didn't talk to the full bounty of stakeholders that are also paying it, or they're paying the opportunity cost of doing it. So I think we need to expand just beyond the users to the large, and I'm sure there's going to be a venue for that, I hope, but I would encourage, and I will encourage council members as well to go out and hold their own town meetings and solicit from citizens their thoughts against all the priorities, and this is just one.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and kind of wind this up if I may. I think, John, you and I talked, I guess, last week, a number of years ago, we did come up with a big plan. I'm not saying that everyone at this table will come along and support everything in the plan, but we built came up with a plan and got a lot of things done, which included schools, convention center, everything else, and I think this is one of these things. The presentation I thought was good. I really do, and I'm glad it's on the table, and it should be. I remember when the first Columbus Day soccer tournament came to Virginia Beach, Bev and I went out to dinner with the kids. I mean, this was 30-plus years ago. They were kids, and we couldn't get into a restaurant, and I'm scratching my head. This is the first time in October I couldn't get into a restaurant in Virginia Beach. And you know why? It was that Columbus Day soccer tournament. So it's not like we are reinventing the wheel. We've got something good here. Find a way to expand it. Two things that I would sit back and tell you that are on my mind. The location is on my mind. I'm not convinced that the dome site's there, but I'm going to listen to my friends down at the oceanfront who have probably a better feel for it than I do. But I'm going to say to you, I'm going to give you 3 words: parking, parking, parking. It is time for us to get our plan together on where we're going to put the parking, because before you know it, we're going to have these projects underway. And if we don't have a parking plan to support these projects, shame on us. And so I would just say we got to put that as a priority. And I'm sure it's already ongoing. I'm just over on the sidelines. But my point to you is that's going to be our key too. And we'll move on now, Dave, unless you want to say something.
I was just going to respond to Councilman Moss regarding this schedule. This schedule is just the concept, not the full project. We can't go out and get involved in the AE world to figure out, what the potential is and what the true cost might be. The true project comes back probably in the 18 budget. maybe even the construction in the 19 budget. So this schedule is just to get some seed money to move forward with some AE support to help that.
Okay, good.
And one other thing, there are many dynamics that go on in our city, and I have come to realize we have two significant economic centers within Virginia Beach, one at the resort and one in our town center, and they are held together by suburban neighborhoods and small business corridors. And so we are not prioritizing that this is any more important than stormwater or whether or not we are going to construct roads or we are going to build other facilities to support other citizen needs. This is just a concept of how to address the shoulder season, how to enhance our resort tourism industry, which is a major industry for our city, and to support a longstanding conversation that the stakeholders at the beach have had with regards to helping grow that piece of our economy.
Very good. We'll move on. All right. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was
I'm
just
sorry.
going to ask about the Sports Hall of Fame that you're mentioning. It's only giving you till 12/31.
What?
Is there any negotiation about that from the General Assembly? Yeah, the December 31 deadline.
We were put into this past budget with the understanding that this money would require a sustainability report to them long-term, and the report needed to be into them by November 1. We asked for an extension until the end of December.
They waited a long time.
Until I can go back to them and ask them if that's a definite
Just
date.
hearing it now. So
Right,
this is why-
exactly. But I have been assured that the money is there, it's not going away, but they just need this plan before it can be released, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now move on to
Thanks, guys.
planning.
Appreciate it.
We go from the big plan to planning. We'll step out for just a second. I'll be right back.
The proper discussion is. You're up first? All right. A deal that you accepted.
Let's go ahead.
All right. Good evening. The Planning Commission has been very busy, so we have a jam-packed December for you. We have 27 planning items scheduled. So I will very quickly go through the items, the 13 items scheduled for December 6th, and then Kevin will give you a glimpse of the items for December 13th. So we'll jump right into it with item number 1, which is a request of the City of Virginia Beach for a rezoning on the Marshview Park property. This is a request to rezone this site from apartment district to P1 Preservation District. This almost 100-acre site was conveyed to the city by the Navy back in 2014. The rezoning to P1 will align the zoning with the uses on the property as well as with the restrictive easements that exist on this site. Much of the park will remain in a natural state, and just the northern portions of the property will be improved. Item 2 is a request for a modification of conditions for a private school that is located within a church along Wishart Road. And this the original use permit limited the school's enrollment to 150 students, and this request will increase the enrollment up to 200 students, and it will also extend the hours of operation. No changes to the site layout or to the building are proposed. Steinhilber's Restaurant is requesting a conditional use permit in order to construct a non-commercial marina in order to replace the existing pier that's on their property that has been damaged by storms. The pier will be used only by patrons of the restaurant and will not be open to the general public. So no overnight mooring, no fuel sales, no food or beverage service is proposed or will be permitted with the
No
conditions.
food or beverage? I'm disappointed.
On the pier, they won't be served on the pier.
Man.
Item 4 is a request for a conditional use permit for in-home daycare within the Castleton neighborhood. The applicant is requesting to watch up to 12 children at any one time. There is opposition to this request, and they were present at the Planning Commission meeting. The Homeowners Association has concerns regarding the operation of a business out of a home, and also they have concerns about the consistency of this request with the restrictive covenants for Castleton.
Well, what,
Wouldn't the restrictive covenants, isn't that a different issue for them with the city?
Yes, sir.
Well,
do they need to address that with the Castleton HOA?
And they have attempted to do that, but they want to continue forward. We do not enforce restrictive covenants. That is correct.
I get that, yeah.
And that wouldn't enter into our assessment either, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. Creates business for lawyers.
McHugh Builders requesting a rezoning from R10 residential district to conditional PDH2 with an A12 overlay. Specifically, this is a request to consolidate 4 properties totaling 4.37 acres in order to develop up to 29 townhouses in a condominium form of ownership. Staff was actually compelled to recommend denial of this request to the Planning Commission. The reason for that is the vast majority of the properties in the vicinity of these properties are zoned residential. We did recommend a compromise from the existing R10 zoning on the site to the proposed underlying density that the A12 apartment district would bring. And Planning Commission did converse about this, and their ultimate decision is to recommend approval based on the imminent relocation of Indian River Road, which will really cut off this property from the adjacent Glenwood neighborhood. So they are requesting approval to you on that item. 2 adjacent properties are proposing to construct a shared pier along their shared property line. The zoning ordinance classifies this as a community boat dock, so a conditional use permit is required. The proposed pier will be 6 feet wide and 160 feet long into the Lynnhaven River. No commercial use is proposed or will be permitted. Item 7 is a request for a conditional use permit for a church that will be located within an existing unit within a shopping center along Holland Road. This 75-member church plans to hold services as well as operate a daycare facility on this B2 zone property. There's adequate parking on the site, and we don't expect any conflicts with existing or proposed tenants of that shopping center. Item 8 is a conditional use permit request for a tattoo studio off of Elson Green Drive. This studio will have up to 5 workstations and will operate between the typical hours of 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. No changes to the site or to the building are proposed other than some signage over the entry. The Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art, or MoCA, has held several fundraising and cultural events on this city-owned property over the years, and these events have been permitted through our special events office. However, they are limited to 4 events per year. So they are requesting a conditional use permit to hold up to 18 events. And their parking management plan for their larger events includes the 99 parking spaces on site, as well as use of the Visitor Information Center across the street. And they have an agreement with the office building at 600 22nd Street. No admission fee is ever collected, and the art galleries are open to the public during all of these events. The last 4 items on December 6th will be amendments to the zoning ordinance. The first amendment includes the term aquarium into the definition of a major entertainment venue, and this will allow signage for the aquarium to be approved by the City Council through a conditional use permit. Item 11 is an amendment that will allow facilities for the housing of seniors and disabled persons to have a freestanding sign on their site. And then items 12 and 13 are related to residential care for seniors. The first item is, item 12 will really be a housekeeping item, and this will allow residential care for seniors to be done within the PDH1 district as a principal use. And it will also remove the requirement that the caregiver reside within the dwelling, and it will permit up to 2 employees or up to 2 caregivers to be on the site at any one time.
Will we get the history of all that changes? Will we get a history explanation of that change?
Yes, it'll be in the staff report. Okay, any questions on those?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along.
All right. Then we get to December 13. There are 14 issues for consideration, 4 of which are amendments to the ordinance, and we'll go through those right now. The first agenda item in the Princess Anne District is one you're probably familiar with, and this is the rezoning for the proposed biomedical park. This piece of it will rezone 146 acres from agriculture to industrial. There will be proffers and design guidelines similar to corporate landing associated with this development. And I will just mention that the site plan that has been submitted is conceptual in nature, as we don't know, what tenants and how it will develop along the way. Item 2 in Bayside District, this is a application for alternative compliance to allow a Chick-fil-A restaurant with a drive-through in the CBC district. The 4,800 square foot restaurant needs alternative compliance for 4 things. One is the drive-through is located within view of the right-of-way. The second, it is short of the 25-foot height requirement. Third is they were requesting a freestanding sign along Virginia Beach Boulevard. And lastly, the parking and building are not built to the Build 2 zone, 70% of the site. So they're requesting alternative compliance for those items. Third item in the Beach District is a subdivision variance, which I'll note both staff and Planning Commission recommended for denial. This is in the R5S district, and what the applicant has is 4 25-foot wide lots. The ordinance states in the R5S district that when you have non-conforming lots, the applicant should combine those lots to bring it closer to or a conforming. So in staff's opinion, the solution to that would be to create 2 50-foot lots. Applicant proposes 3 33-foot lots, each containing a house that would be 20 feet in width. These houses, to meet the setbacks, would require BZA variance. So staff has recommended denial. So to Planning Commission, and it should be noted that this is in the Old Beach District where they could build a single-family dwelling with a garage apartment in the rear and employ those design standards, and I think that would be a viable option. The fourth item, it's one in Centerville District. You're probably familiar because recently there was a news article about flyers that were distributed, but this is a CUP for a gas station on a commercial use, commercially zoned site. Staff and Planning Commission have recommended approval. The submittal itself is for a Royal Farms convenience store with 8 fueling stations and an automated car wash. One thing we did look at is the location of the car wash next to the adjacent residential, so we did condition hours of operation of that car wash, as well as design standards to up the quality of it.
Bobby?
Yeah, if I could make a statement, please. As was just mentioned, there was an unfortunate delivery of some flyers that went out with, some opinions that did not reflect this body nor the people of Virginia Beach. Unfortunate, but I just want to say that the developer on this stepped forward in a very big way. We had a number of meetings with the developer where they met with the adjacent community leaders. Rosemary was at a town hall meeting. There were 100 people there. And, some of the concerns on the flyer were crime, and there was alcohol sales, and, concern about the gas tanks. The precinct commander from the 2nd precinct came and gave assurances that the alcohol sales, even though across the street from school has precedent in Virginia Beach, as you mentioned, if you have a Food Lion near a school, they, sell wine and beer, and it's off-premises sales. And they foresee no increase in crime. We have the Wawa on Farrell Parkway, and we have not had any real incidences. In terms of the gas tanks, which was a concern across from the school, the fire chief came and gave assurances that the tanks, and that's the only reason we're really, from what I understand, voting on this are the gas tanks, because it is zoned for that property.
Correct.
And the fire chief gave assurances to the residents that showed up at the town hall and others that, you know, it's safe. You know, the tanks that they use now are, you know, very good quality. And, you know, my thanks to Colonel Hanson. Once again, we had the full crew out there. They talked about the traffic and everything, and, you know, I don't think, and one other thing I'd like to mention, and, you know, not to bedrag this, but that whole project with the adjacent apartments, 2 years ago, I asked them to delay the project till we get a Lynn Haven 11 in, and they did that because it would definitely cut down, you know, on the traffic impacts and everything. They did that, and the developer bent over backwards for the civic engagement with everybody, adjacent community. Brigadoon is ready to write a letter of support, and I got a phone call that the board of Charlestown's South, everybody was in favor. I think there was one speaker in opposition at the
Yes.
the thing, and even that person admitted that their civic league was in favor of this. So once again, I just wanted to take time for an explanation.
right?
Yes.
But they're
Yeah.
nice. They have them on the Eastern
know,
Shore,
but
and they're very nice.
Just like a Wawa and, all right.
All right, what we got next?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Dyer. Fifth item in the Centerville District is a conditional use permit for mini storage. The facility is a 132,150 square foot indoor facility, similar to others we've seen. It is constructed using high-quality building materials that are meant to blend with the adjacent elementary school. Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval.
I gotta interject one thing. Some of these mini storages that are being built now are very attractive. I mean,
I find it hard to believe, too.
I got to really compliment. I don't know. I'm sure this is one, but I don't even believe they're mini storages. I really don't.
And
Okay.
it's making our life easy as they come in, because we can say, look what council approved.
Yeah. I mean, it's
So-
very impressive.
They even have meeting rooms in some of them.
Yeah.
All right, the next item, item number 6, in the Bayside District. This is a conditional use permit for firearm sales from the home. Applicant will sell custom rifles on referral, and it's internet sales only, and they are currently in the process of getting their FFL. Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval. Item number 7 is a use permit for a church. Church is going within an existing building. The sanctuary will seat up to 115 people. There are no changes proposed to the building or site except the exterior signage that will be added, and staff and Planning Commission have recommended approval. Item number 8 is a subdivision variance. This is in Princess Anne District off Indian River Road, and the basic premise of this is currently lots J and K have a north-south orientation. They would like to reconfigure the lots to an east-west. I guess this fits in better with the house plan that developer plans on using. These lots also do not have access to a public street. Riddick Lane is a private easement at that point, so the subdivision variance is required. K2, shown there on the right, is also required. That's just a cleanup variance, as that lot was never legally recorded by plat. Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval. Item number 9 is a change of zoning and use permit request for motor vehicle sales. This is on Oceana Boulevard. And the site will contain 4 small buildings and display up to 50 cars. I will note that it does remove an incompatible residential use from the above 75 noise zone. This applicant came before us months ago, and we asked them to delay pending the Southeastern Parkway briefing that you received a couple months ago, because this site is impacted, but they are moving forward. Item number 10 is a conditional use permit for boat repair and storage. This is in the Beach District, and it is in an industrial area where you have approved several boat storage facilities before, and this one will be held to that standard. Where the boats will be stored will be surrounded by fencing, landscaping, and the applicant will bring the site into compliance with all regulations. Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval. And now the last 4 amendment ordinances. First one is an amendment to allow the preparation and service of food in craft breweries. This is one that we have looked at craft breweries over the past couple of years and how they're operating, and we feel that adding food service to this is positive for that business. I will note that food trucks will still require a use permit for open air, and the service of food will be included in their use permit. So if they don't specifically ask for it in the use permit, it will still be prohibited. Agenda item number 12 is an ordinance that grants setback deviations for generators and pool equipment. The same deviations that the ordinance gives to HVAC units, which says they can go 5 feet within a setback, but not closer than 5 feet to the property line. This is something that staff looked at, and we are getting a large number of BZA variances for this. And so we looked at the ordinance, changed the ordinance to include generators with this. When the ordinance was written, generators tended to be larger and louder. Now they're really no louder than your typical HVAC unit.
Go back a second, please, on number 11. On that one, that gives the craft breweries the right to sell food.
To prepare and sell food, yes.
But if you're a bar, you have to provide food. So how, this is making them act the same way as a restaurant/bar. It's giving them an unequal playing field there, right?
Well, this is something that there were some inconsistencies in the language, because if you look at craft breweries is a use permit in the B2 and I1 district. However, a restaurant is a by right use. And so when we looked at that conflict, because a lot of these craft breweries, when it first got instituted, we were picturing, a little 10 by 10 tasting room where you go, you sample beer and pick it up and leave. Well, over the past couple of years, we've seen several of these craft breweries have expanded beyond that. They've used, a lot of them have implemented food trucks, and they had the desire to expand to food service. And we thought that was a reasonable request, given that restaurants and eating establishments are permitted. I understand what you're saying with the,
I mean, if I were a bar owner, I would be highly upset that that we're giving an unfair advantage to someone that made the entree as a craft brewery, and then all of a sudden they have the option to add food, but they don't have to. But if I'm a bar and I'm selling craft beer, I've got to give food because that's law.
that's interesting.
It just seems kind of unfair to me. Something Billy and Moss brought up as well.
Okay.
And I'd be
Good
happy
comments,
to
good
dig
comments.
into that further and try to get you a better explanation than I'm giving on the fly here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Oh,
to
no,
put you
not
on
at
the
all.
spot, but if you could, it's just.
I'm happy to look into that further.
What do we
for
got
you.
next?
Sorry.
All right, I think we're on item 13, which is an amendment to the Oceanfront Resort District Form-Based Code, and this is in regards to parking. And what this does, this syncs the Ocean Form-Based Code with the zoning ordinance in regards to establishing parking minimums. It's really a cleanup variance so that it's consistent. And I will say it will streamline the review and approval process.
Provide examples that you've actually dealt with that this allegedly resolves. I can't put a physical example to the words, but it just says it's gonna streamline the process and make it easier, so there must be an example that generated the need for this improvement. I'd just like to see what that is.
Absolutely, I will get that to you. It's something Christine Gay in the SGA office worked with. And the last item, item number 14, is a change that now permits a columbarium as a by right use when it's within an existing cemetery.
That makes sense to me.
It did to us too.
All right.
And that is what we've had for you.
Very good. Any other issues? Folks, I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and be safe, and we'll adjourn, and have a great evening.